Well, Jedd Fisch thinks it's easier to make the college football playoff in the new Big Ten than it is in the new Big 12. I happen to disagree with him a bit, particularly in his unique situation. Welcome into the channel. Here on this channel, we talk college football, conference realignment, and college basketball, all from a Big 12 angle. Please consider subscribing if you have not. Live shows Wednesdays and Sundays, they are a blast. Make sure you are tuned in for those. Subscribe to the channel, like the video, comment on the video. All that stuff is great. If you think I'm totally off and the Big Ten is the easier path, feel free to let me know in the comments. I welcome it all. And it's John-Kurtz-4 on Venmo if you want to support the channel that way. All right, Jedd Fisch, not the most popular guy in Big 12 country right now. Certainly not the most popular guy in Tucson, Arizona. Took the Washington job and had a very unique quote after taking the job, when basically asked to explain, like, hey, why take this job? Why Washington? Arizona was poised to have a huge year, probably going to be a preseason top 15 team. And I sincerely doubt that you are going to see Washington in any preseason top 15s this year after everything that they are losing, starting with Michael Penix, quite obviously. But here's what Jedd Fisch said. He said, quote, "Well, I think that's always a problem, right? You can't be right. You can't be wrong, whatever you say. I know that comment is always going to be made. It's a destination job." I would answer it this way. The Big Ten, the SEC right now is who's leading the football pathways. The college football landscape is about getting to the college football playoff. There's 12 teams that are going to compete every year starting next year in the college football playoffs. So the key part here is he's saying the Big Ten, the SEC right now is who's leading the football pathways, and the college football landscape is about getting to the playoff. So if we're deciphering what he says, he's saying I have a better chance to get to the playoff at Washington than I do at Arizona. Big picture, we'll find out if he's right soon enough. I think it's a pretty healthy debate. If you're not going to be one of the top, I would say 5 to 8 college football brands, it's definitely a debate whether or not it would be easier to just go through and win the Big 12 or maybe a depleted ACC every single year versus finishing top 3-ish in the Big 10 or the SEC in terms of college football playoff access. Very healthy debate if you're not one of the best teams. And I think that's the nuance that needs to apply to that debate. If you're Ohio State, if you are, we'll see about Alabama. If you are LSU, if you're Georgia, it's a little bit different there. But if you are a team like a Washington, I think that's a very, very healthy debate. But let's look at Jedd Fisch's case this year. I mean, look, the Big 12, winning the Big 12 this year would be easier than finishing top 2 to 3 in the Big 10, I would say for sure, for Washington, based on the roster that they have coming back, which is very much up in the air right now because there's a lot of work for Jedd Fisch to do. But, I mean, Arizona was going to have 18 of 22 starters back. They had tightened everything up, kept all the real predators at bay there. They were going to have Noah Fafita. They were going to have Teteroa McMillan back at quarterback and wide receiver. Incredibly dynamic combination there. Probably the best in the Big 12 conference and may still be now under new leadership. But I would suggest that squad has a better chance to win the Big 12 than whatever it is that he's going to roll out at Washington. With no Michael Penix, no Roma Dunze, everybody that they are losing rather, has it finishing top 3 in the new Big Ten, right? The new Big Ten. Because look at, Washington's schedule this year, they have Wazoo in the non-con, which you do have to worry about here because if we're talking about being an at-large team to the playoff, that matters. Arizona has a tough non-con at K-State, but it's a non-conference game, and we're talking about, hey, you basically just need to win the Big 12. Like, yes, you need to be one of the highest-rated conference champions, but it's unlikely that one loss in your non-con is going to screw that up. If you're trying to be an at-large team, one loss in your non-con could screw that up, so that does bear mentioning. But then the conference schedule, man, Michigan, at Iowa, USC, at Penn State, at Oregon, all of those games, very losable, I think, for Washington next year. It's easy to find 3 losses in that schedule, which would basically drop them out of contention, I would tell you, for the college football playoff. So I don't know. To me, it's like, Jedd, next year, that statement is not true. And I know he's going for the big picture view here. Like, hey, big picture, this is going to be a better spot to do it because Washington is one of only a handful of programs to make 2 college football playoffs in the previous college football playoff era. I get it, but does Jedd Fisch seem like the guy who's really playing for the big picture? Does he seem like a big picture guy? Jedd Fisch has not been at a job for more than 2 years since 2007. And that was an NFL stint where he was there from 2004 to 2007. Look at his job history. It is crazy. It's a new job every single year or every couple of years. So This just seems like a weird marriage between he and Washington, and one that is bound to not last very long one way or the other. And I think it's going to be a little bit more difficult to jumpstart and get going than he may be perceiving it to be. Here's another quote from Jedd Fisch. He said, if you look at what teams traditionally compete, it's about the same 12 or 14 teams. The University of Washington is one of those 12 or 14 teams. That's why we coach. We coach to be able to take a seat at the table and to be able to give yourself a chance every year with resources beyond belief. Now, if this is all about, one concession I will cut to Jedd Fisch here is, if this is about having more NIL money and more resources in general with, financial issues that Arizona's having, leadership issues, they just fired the athletic director, then I can understand that. Okay. If that was really the tipping point, I guess I can understand that. But it would seem to me to be the pertinent thing for Jedd Fisch to do would have been playing it out at Arizona this next year. Even if I'm just abiding by who he is and who he's been, the job hopper guy, play it out, go win the Big 12, make the college football playoff this year. And then perhaps you get Florida, which is his alma mater, an SEC job. And I would firmly suggest that's going to be a place in a better position. Even though the SEC is really tough and they've been down a little bit, I would say Florida, you're going to have a better position to be in the playoff regularly than you are if you're Washington in the new look Big 10. So I get the point that he's making here. Washington has made the playoff a couple of times, but I think in this new world Big 10, it's going to be a lot more difficult than what it was in the previous Pac-12. Yes, they made the playoff a couple of times in the previous iteration of the Pac-12, which was a much, much different kind of conference than what this new Big 10 is going to be. I would suggest that the old Pac-12 was somewhere in between what the new Big 12 is versus what the new Big 10 is. And I have my doubts that Washington is going to be able to compete at that sort of level. And hey, the bottom line, again, no matter what, is how long is Jedd Fisch actually going to be in this job? What kind of a marriage is this going to actually be between him and Washington? Everything in his history would suggest that he is not a guy who is going to be in this job for very long, certainly long enough to really build enough, in my opinion, at Washington to have a legitimate shot at the national championship. So I'm not saying Jedd Fisch is totally wrong about this perception that the Big Ten is the easier place to make the playoff. But I do think that there are some flaws in what he is saying, particularly in the situation that he's inheriting right now. And it still raises a lot of questions to me about his decision-making and how he evaluated wanting to take this job. I think Washington is a very good job. I don't think it's a great job. And if we're talking about the 12 to 14 teams that are going to compete year in and year out moving forward for national championships, I would dispute whether or not Washington is going to be a part of that group. I mean, even within their own conference, I think Oregon, USC, Michigan, Ohio State, maybe Penn State would all be ahead of them. I think they're kind of on the same level as Penn State. So I just rattled off, 5 teams that are there either ahead or at their level in their own conference. And you'll take a group like that from the SEC as well. And then maybe like a Florida State or a Clemson. We're already at basically like 14 teams with all of that. So it's a healthy debate. I think it's worthy of discussion. It was a comment that really grabbed my attention. And honestly, if you're listening to like Jason Scheer, shout out to him, all the stuff that he is putting out from the Arizona 24/7 site, Wildcat Authority. It does not leave me feeling really great about like who Jedd Fisch is in all of this. But let me know what you think in the comments. Am I off base? Is it going to be easier as a middle tier or second tier sort of Big Ten team to make the college football playoff there than it would be to win the Big 12? Let me know what you think. Like the video. Make sure you're subscribed. Join the live shows Wednesdays and Sunday night. Planning on having a show tonight at 7 o'clock. 7 o'clock to get it in before K-State tips at 7 Central, that is. 7 o'clock Central time. Appreciate all of you. Take care, and I will talk to you soon.